What have we just witnessed? Australia leave Ben Stokes' England and the hundreds of thousands of England supporters absolutely shell-shocked after a Bazball-esque performance from Travis Head. I'm going to give my club cricketer's opinion of everything that's transpired, splitting it into three sections. We'll go into England, we'll go into Australia, and then a couple of external factors around the game before looking ahead to the next test at the Gabba. Well, England's batting was always going to be one of the main focus points of this first game, and if you throw back to the previous Ashes series down under, the biggest fear from everyone was a repeat of the Rory Burns dismissal. It didn't happen on the first ball, but it did happen a couple of balls later.
Just drop it into the offside or something. Oh no!
So despite losing that early wicket, there was a lot of positive play. A lot of our batters looking for those scoring options, despite losing wickets quite regularly. I felt that especially Duckett, Pope, Brook and Smith really showed the future Bazball that we've been claiming for the last 18 months or so. You know, not giving your wickets away, unlike Stokes, Root, Crawley. These guys continue to find options and put pressure back onto the bowlers, especially Scott Boland, which was a clear plan. They clearly meant to target him. And first innings out for less than 200. It's never going to be a good enough total. That being said, I thought the fact that we were going at 5.5 and over really set a marker down for the game, but also for this series in terms of how both teams are going to need to bat. And there was a lot of tussle, which we can get into in the second innings there. So for me, the actual standout batter for England from these two innings was Ollie Pope, the person who everyone had their eyes on in the lead up to this series. Was Bethel going to come in and replace him? He's no longer the vice captain. The sole focus on him was for runs. Credit to him, he'd obviously gone away and done a bit of technical work on his head position, I believe. Scored some runs in the warm-up game against the Lions. It did start to look a bit in the second innings here like the old habits were kind of coming back, but I did like how composed he was, and so there's a lot of positives to be around there. The negatives are three talismanic figures. Crawley, the opening up, the guy who smacked Cummins through the covers first ball in the last series. Root, the man who everyone wants to or needs to apparently score 100 so that Hayden can get round the field with his togs off. And Stokes, the man who can either hit 200 in a day or can also anchor an innings. Neither of them came off. They looked like they were in two minds. They were either wafting too widely outside off stump or just, you know, a very two-minded approach I felt, especially with the lower order when it came to facing the short ball. This is a massive, massive outfield. There were runs everywhere there. We didn't need to go hooking everything, especially when they deliberately moved the fielders out. Bowling. A brutal first innings performance from our England. I don't know what you call four quartets, so I don't know what you call five, but led by Stokes, the standard bearer. The standard itself, though, was set by the other four, by Archer, by Atkinson, by Wood, by Carse. Accurate, fast, short pitch bowling, and the short stuff is something which I don't think the Australian batters have ever faced on their own turf, not for a very, very long time. Green, Smith, Labuschagne, Khawaja, they were clearly unnerved, and that's something which I can talk a little bit more about with those batters a little bit later on. Full credit, though, does have to come to Australia. But when you only have 200 runs to play with as a bowling unit with that second innings, the deck was flattening out, there's little margin for error. The good news for England is that they have a lot of time now to rest up for that second game, meaning that they'll probably stick with that same bowling attack. But Australia, Travis Head out-Bazballed us. He did it better than all of us there. He was always going to be the biggest threat for the English bowling attack. He was always going to be the one that was going to create the most challenges for Stokes as a captain. But this wasn't planned. This came out of several moments of Khawaja Chaos. But I think it's actually shown Australia a way that they can actually play, maybe tinker with their lineup whilst keeping a balanced side for the remainder of the series. With Mitch Marsh and Renshaw playing Sheffield Shield, could this be the last we see of Usman Khawaja, be it through fitness or a selection decision in this series? His Queensland teammate Marnus Labuschagne was back to his best. He didn't score many in the first innings, but there was one shot with a little punch just straight down the ground for 4, which showed everything. And the 51 off 49 in the second innings really drove it home that he is back to stay at number 3. But let's not overlook the fact the first innings from Australia was a mess. Pandemonium and panic would have been setting in, would have been rife in that dressing room as they came off the field, realising that Aussie Khawaja, the man who McDonald had backed, was not able to bat. 2 balls in, Doggett is back in the hut, and Khawaja still can't bat. Then came the short pitch stuff. Labuschagne hit, Smith hit, and then Khawaja as well, all out in absolutely extraordinary fashions, really setting a marker for intense bowling for this series. Mitchell Starc has just delivered the best Ashes bowling performance of all time. Even better than Stuart Broad's 7-foot at Trent Bridge. Sorry, Broadie. Kerry O'Keefe on commentary described him as a Ferrari, and I think if I could nail it down, he'd be a Testarossa. Timeless and classic. His fast-paced bowling, his accuracy, consistent bowling, lulling the English batsman into playing false shots, wafting outside. It was something special to watch, and with Cummins out the side, with Hazelwood out of the side, the onus was on him as one of the frontline bowlers to stand up, and boy did he do that. He won that game for Australia. Doggett bowling unusual short pitch stuff was in the wickets. He showed similarities a lot to Travis Bird, I think, in his opening overs. But alongside that, Cam Green would have been the one to have bowled the short pitch bowling. So the fact that he barely bowled, to me, suggests he's not back to bowling fitness. Alongside that, Nathan Lyon bowled 2 overs in the entire game. With the pitches they look like they're going to be creating, are we going to see much of a role for Lyon in this series and in the future Australian team? Cummins will be back next game. There is silence over Hazelwood, but with Nisa and Webster spending just as much time on the field as the actual players did, they're surely in contention for the next test. The Gabba, Brisbane, with the pink ball under lights. With the pink ball under lights with Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins. The swinging pink ball with Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc, Scott Boland, and potentially someone else. With England batters out of nick and wafting at wide ones. But England have swing bowlers too, and they're full of confidence. The pink ball is known historically as being extremely difficult for batters to face because of the excessive swing it gets, especially under lights, which probably is going to mean another short game of Test cricket. On that point, was this game a good advert for Test cricket? Across 2 days, we saw 50,000 people packed in on both. They got to see 35 wickets, boundaries, sixes, fours, clashes, injuries. It all left us emotionally drained. But we could have seen that for 2 or maybe even 3 more days. England batted poorly, there's no question of that. But Australia clearly have no plan to bring in spin at any point during their games, and they are clearly doctoring these pitches to suit their seam bowlers, which might be fine for their team, but on a larger scale here, there's a lot of questions around the feasibility of Test cricket right now. This was pure entertainment, but for Test cricket to survive, you need ticket revenue, you need broadcast revenue, the TV advertisement, the broadcasters who pay a lot of money for these games. They missed out on 3 days of that. 3 days of advertisement money, 3 days of ticket money, which would have gone into back into club cricket, back into professional cricket, into facilities, into academies. Cricket Australia missed out on 3 days of that in the most anticipated Ashes series in 20 years. And I suspect they're going to be missing out on a few more days. Put the pitch aside, I have never seen a slower outfield in any of Test cricket, and for an opening spectacle, this was really disappointing. Yes, there were boundaries, a lot of them playing straight, but any attacking shot really sort of wide in front of square was only ever worth 2s or 3s or running 4s, and this really was not a good look. I do suspect there's going to be some words mentioned to groundsmen at the other venues for this series, but Perth certainly delivered a scorching match. This decision, was it out? Let me know, because I thought a spike had to be right next to the ball being next to the bat to be clearly given out. And if there was any element of doubt, then the on-field umpire's decision stood, which was not out. You could tell very clearly that the third umpire was uncertain by how long he took to make the decision. In the end, I wonder if this was a panic, generally being uncertain, and maybe forgot the procedure, but I stand to be corrected. I've already seen some stuff from some umpires who have said, look, very clearly it was out. And Smith looked guilty, there's no question about it, he didn't help himself. A small moment in the game, but a controversial one. Was it the right call? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, you're going to love some more controversy right here.